Hi guys. So as the interim budget is closing by, we have received a few queries and questions around the budget itself. So we decided why not, in the best interest of everyone, share the same questions and our responses to it with all of you viewers out there. So the first question is a rather basic one. What is an interim budget? So an interim budget, as the name itself literally suggests, it's a budget presented in an interim fashion. It is not an actual full-fledged budget. It is something being presented as a temporary solution. So this is generally done during the time of the year, wherein there is an election, a general election close by, like it is now. So an interim budget is not really a full-fledged budget, but a mini version of it. It is generally, think of it this way: anything presented in the interim budget cannot really be implemented for the whole next year. There will be a full-fledged budget presented by the next elected government. So that's about the interim budget. Let's look at question number 2. So what's the difference between an interim budget and a vote on account? So an interim budget is what I said. It would be talking a lot about the past expenses and the past revenues. Also something around the future expenses and revenues that the government expects, at least for the next couple of months, till the general the Lok Sabha elections are conducted. And a vote on account, on the other hand, has the first part intact. It will talk about the past revenue and expenses, but at the same time it will also focus majorly around the expenses that the government would be making, and not so much around the sources of income or the revenues per se. So that is the difference between an interim budget and a vote on account. So governments generally during election years can choose to present one of these. This year the finance ministry has explicitly mentioned that it would be presenting an interim budget. So when is an interim budget applicable? Again, as I mentioned, it is applicable when a government does not really have a full tenure to implement a budget, like now, majorly because of an upcoming election, again like now, like this year in 2019. So an interim budget is basically the budget which is in play and in force till the next government is elected. So how is interim budget different from the final budget? Okay, so that's an interesting thing. So a final budget actually consists of a lot more than an interim budget. It talks about the past and the future years revenue and expense in detail. However, an interim budget, obviously due to the lack of a period in future, it cannot really talk much about the sources of revenue in future, neither about the expenses that it expects to, the current government expects to incur over an entire year. So it is somewhat an abridged version of a full budget, and generally a full budget can include several important measures like certain tax changes, policy changes, while the interim budget can also introduce a few policy changes. The Election Commission of India has certain guidelines to ensure that the interim budget is not presented in a way that unfairly influences the voting section of the society. So that is the basic difference between an interim and a full budget. Does interim budget 2019 hold any value? So this is actually quite a opinion, quite a question that demands some opinion on a personal and subjective front. See, in our opinion, all budgets do hold value, and the interim budget would actually be indicative of what the current government is willing to do. Having said that, it is not necessary that it does everything that it mentions in the interim budget, but it actually explains the mindset and the framework with which the current government expects to run the economy if re-elected. So that offers some more insight and perspective. And apart from that, while it doesn't hold any significant value for the longer term, it does have a deep impact on the sentimental and emotional fronts on the Indian population. So yeah, by that measure, it does have a certain degree of importance. So guys, these were the top 5 questions that actually came to us. If you have any more questions related to the budget, we would be more than happy to answer them. Just drop your questions in the comment section and we will answer each one of them. So meanwhile, keep watching this space. Once the interim budget is out, we actually hope to come out with another video explaining of what we understood of the interim budget and how we expect it to impact the country, the economy and your personal investments. So meanwhile, keep browsing through the MyWay Wealth app and keep looking for investment opportunities that could turn to gold irrespective of whatever this budget presents. So happy investing, guys. So guys, learning and earning is a daily thing with MyWay. But do not forget, the more you know, the more you will grow. So guys, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more videos that will help you take a step closer to financial well-being and being wealthy.